we talked for a while, and I was blown away because I was like, dude, you're the like everyone knows you. Like you're the guy, you're the one who we're here for, and yet you're talking to me. And so humbling to ask about who I am and to get to know me. The thing that I didn't tell him is that before I had met him, before that day, I actually had some serious beef with him. Welcome back to Beyond the Surface. I'm your host, Ezra Gill, and here we aim to have God-centered, meaningful conversations relevant to students and young adults. Today, I'm doing a solo episode where I provide my thoughts on social media, why I left it entirely, and how to know where God has graced you to be a light for His glory. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you followed us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Thanks for joining us, and we pray today's episode encourages you to live out the life God has called you to live. So this would be my first ever solo episode. I know Ryan did one a while back in season 1, and I figured I would go ahead and do one myself. And it's kind of funny, I have a whole script written out here. I have like 4 pages of notes that I have prepared. And if Ryan was here, he would be making fun of me so hard right now. Ryan and I are totally opposite when it comes to preparing for our episodes and preparing for how we record. Ryan, he just kind of goes for it and doesn't really write anything out. It just kind of comes out of him on the moment. Me, on the other hand, I need things written out. I like having a script, or at least somewhat of an open script where I can adhere to, but also just kind of bounce off of and just steal ideas from. Him and I are different in that sense, and it's kind of cool how we have different strategies on preparing for recording. And I guess that's just another tip as well. If anyone wants to do a podcast or anything where that requires preparation, I guess, just trying to determine your style, what works for you, whether you're someone that likes to prepare ahead of time, or whether you just like to go for it, whether you have a routine of like, I don't know, before every recording, I'm going to go for a run or something. I don't know. I'm just making the stuff up and throwing ideas out there. But anyways, I am going to be talking about social media, Facebook, Instagram, the reasons why I left it, just kind of sharing my story. And it's something that I've alluded to in other episodes. And we talked a lot about it in the first season of just the pros and cons of social media, why it's good, why it's really not so good. That was back when I actually had it. I have actually completely deleted my Instagram and Facebook accounts. I'm no longer on there. You can't find @EzraGill on Instagram anymore. I'm gone. I'm out. And I'm never going back as well. And I just want to give a ginormous disclaimer before I even get into my story. I don't consider myself like a better Christian or like greater than everyone else just because I deleted my socials. Actually, this is me opening up about my weaknesses and sharing my story of recognizing where I needed to pull back. This also is not going to be me convincing everybody to join me. It's actually me encouraging you to be where God has graced you to be and to leave where God has not graced you to be, and just to do what feels most natural to you and to be who God made you to be. Having said that, I'm just going to quickly share my story with social media, how I experienced it, how it affected me, how I was introduced to it. Everybody has a slightly different story and the first time they ever heard of this thing. But I remember the first time I heard about it, it was like there was this weird thing called MySpace. I was like in elementary school at the time, and I'm pretty sure I remember my sister got in a lot of trouble for making an account because she did it against my mom's permission, but I really don't remember much. And then my brother, he was in high school, and he was on this website called Facebook, and he would be talking to his church friends just through the chat. And I found that a little redundant because, like, in my mind, you could just easily just call them or just text them or something. Text messaging had just come out, and he was often texting people. So I'm like, why do you need a Facebook account? But I think I was in like 8th grade when I got my first smartphone. And not long after that, I made an Instagram account and then Facebook shortly after. And I just remember this world just blew me away. And I felt as though I had been missing out on so much life has to offer. And I almost like got worried about how much I had previously missed and how I needed to constantly check the feed in order to stay up to date on other people's lives. Instagram in particular sparked like these emotions and these neurons in my brain or something like that I never even knew that I had. Man, I'll just never forget that one photo I took from South Haven. I went there with some family members and I took this photo and I put like a million nasty grainy filters on it and I got 15 likes on it. 15 likes. I was floored. I could not believe that there were 15 other people in this world who thought that the photo I took and edited was cool. I was so excited. I saw my account. I saw my following on Instagram as something to grow. I would look at other people with more followers and more likes and like, man, I want to be like that. I want to grow my influence. I want to grow and become someone that other people follow. And I mistakenly associated having an Instagram account as being a leader and being someone with influence in this world. I would see myself as better than those with less followers than me and inferior to anyone who had more followers than me. Like I would be intimidated to go talk to somebody in real life because they had more followers than me. That's literally how I saw social media and how it was affecting me in real life. And anyone who had less followers than me, I looked down upon them. I was like, well, why are you talking to me? Sort of a thing. And it was weird. I was putting labels on people when I hadn't even met them before over this fake world and already coming to a conclusion about them before having had a single conversation with them. I was starting to notice in high school how Instagram was becoming less casual and funny, and it was becoming more filtered. And it was only capturing the very highlights, the very best parts of people's lives. I noticed that people were like deleting their old photos that had like less than 100 likes and just any like photos that were just kind of casual and keeping only those crystal clear best shots where they were at a concert or they were with their friends or all their birthdays. And I remember my feed as I was scrolling through, it just turned into just a bunch of group photos and mirror selfies, or girls wearing skimpy clothing, which is a huge thing. And I was becoming really disgusted in particular at how the sexual appeal in our culture began to percolate into my generation. I was really upset that girls my age were reducing themselves to these sexual objects based on the clothing they would choose to wear and the photos that they were taking of themselves and of each other. And I get that this is a touchy subject, but it's really not hard to see the drastic change in our culture in the past few decades and how this has affected our youth. And I was noticing that, and I didn't want to be a part of it. I'm a very counter-cultural person by nature. I love kind of being a rebel in society, going against the crowd and being that light for Jesus. And I hate being part of systems. I like changing things and influencing things by turning it upside down. And I wanted Instagram to go back to being funny and spontaneous and unfiltered and creative above all. I like the creativity people put in their passions and in their work. And I wanted it to go back to that. I found myself posting more about my faith, my musical passions. I would do these drum videos and I was all part of the drum community and I was getting a lot of followers from a bunch of drummers. They were like, oh, wow, you're super cool. And I was following them. And that was actually a lot of fun. I miss that. And just other stuff I found enjoyable, or I would just post randomly whenever I just felt like it and say things and do stuff and just be who I wanted to be no matter what. And I didn't care if any photo I posted got less likes or anything. I wanted to encourage people to go back to being more casual and real and less filtered. And I'm sure I encouraged some people, and I was getting a lot of views on my stories, and some people were replying and saying, oh, that's super cool. And I was beginning to realize that the old Instagram I once knew, it has long passed. A disappointment had settled in very quickly, and I realized that things were different now, and I either had to just get used to it and deal with it, or leave. As I was going through my senior year, I sort of saw Instagram as childish and immature, like a high school sort of a thing. And I wanted my exodus from Instagram to signify me entering into college and adulthood. Little did I know that college people were using Instagram probably even more so than high schoolers. But also, like, again, it was hard because Instagram made me feel good. Whenever I posted, I felt great and I saw the comments and the likes, and I also felt like I was missing out on things too. People posted their personal stuff and I want to be in the know of what was going on. It's difficult to know when someone's in a relationship or when someone's engaged or married or having kids when you're not on social media. And this was something that I would be giving up. On top of that, I actually felt as though my account was a platform for the gospel. Because again, I would often post and repost about our church, my faith, worship music, a bunch of pastors I follow. I figured it was my responsibility as a bearer of the gospel to bring the gospel to this dark world that is social media. I felt like I was serving God, holding onto it so tightly. I didn't want to let this lifestyle go. So I kept it. But then 2020 came and changed absolutely everything in this world, including social media. And I got to be honest, throughout the pandemic, I saw and witnessed the very best and the very worst of social media. So, on one hand, I was just so encouraged by the faith filled, hopeful writing from pastors, worship leaders, and just friends I followed. And I felt like God was clearly using these people and their platforms and their following to give hope and encouragement and teaching and correction to me and to everyone else. And it was just such a beacon of God's glory. And I will always respect anyone who continue to use their platform to this day for God's glory. I was just blown away by all the encouragement and the positivity I was actually seeing on Instagram and Facebook. But at the very same time, the very worst of social media was coming out in the form of division, virtue signaling, finger pointing, labeling, canceling, hacking, data breaches, misinformation or just one-sided coverage, and just overall confusion. I honestly felt like I was being very patient with Instagram and Facebook throughout 2020. I was on my last leg with them, but I was just going to wait it out because things were going to go back to normal and the digital world was just in a rebellious teenager phase right now. Everyone's just really on edge right now and everything's going to settle down and go back to normal soon. Similar to my experience with Instagram not going back to being casual and funny, my hopes were yet again let down when the world of social media became so politicized and divided, and it was clear that it wasn't going back to the way it used to be. I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was just exhausted. So in January 2021, I finally decided to delete my Instagram and Facebook accounts forever, and I'm never going back. Just before I recorded this, I went on YouTube just out of curiosity and I just typed in deleting Instagram or deleting Facebook, and I found out this is like a whole genre of videos on YouTube. There are so many other people, kids younger than me, who are making the decision to remove their accounts. And when I say remove their accounts, I'm not talking just deleting the app from their phone. Like, I'm talking people that are deleting their accounts that they've used so much and that they've gained followings of, that they've formed friendships with. They're deleting those accounts forever. And everyone has different reasons for keeping or deleting social media. Yet we all experience the same effects, positive or negative. The myth and the lie that they try to sell you when you create your account is that you have full control of your feed. You have full control of everything you're going to see. If you don't like something, you can just block it or delete it. And that's just not true. You're going to experience everything. There's an explore page on Instagram and Facebook. There are ads. You're getting connected with other people that are going to post whatever they want. So you're not going to experience just the best parts of Instagram and not experience the worst parts. You're going to experience all of it no matter what. I kind of explained my reasons why I kept it for so long, but let me explain the reasons why I left. What was kind of building up throughout the years that led to me deleting it. I remember actually explaining this unfair situation social media puts our brains in a couple of previous episodes, how it makes us feel alone and left out, even though we're doing just fine. So check this out. So people post about their lives when they're around people. When they're with people and they're doing something fun, when they're going out to the movies or to a concert. And their pages are often filled with pictures of them and all their friends, just a bunch of group photos. Not often, but they will rarely post when they're alone in their rooms. Just an ordinary Monday routine. But that is the time when we open Instagram and begin to scroll, when we're alone. So we're comparing our present moment, being alone, to someone else's snapshot, just a brief moment of them when they are surrounded by all their friends at a party, and suddenly we start feeling left out and insecure. The truth is that other person you're looking at has at some point been alone in their room looking at all your posts when you were out with friends, and they feel left out. So it's like this completely unfair and illogical equation we put ourselves in, yet we partake of it every single day. Comparison is the thief of joy. And if you want to be happy with your life, you need to learn how to enjoy every moment. Not just the mountaintops surrounded with friends, but also the valleys when you're just alone and it's just kind of a boring chores kind of a day. There is gold in every season and in every moment. It's up to us to find it. Another thing is that Instagram in particular was making me have wrong or just misleading views about people, and it was causing me to come to conclusions about people whom I'd never met. And I remember I learned this when I had the opportunity to meet with a high profile worship leader and influencer in the Christian sphere. This is a 1 in a million chance I got, and I still cannot believe this happened. And I remember I was at a church I did not attend with a bunch of people I did not know. I was actually asked to film an interview with a couple of people in the church sphere, people who were really well known across the country. And I was just kind of blown away that they're asking me, and I'm just like a nobody, and they don't even know who I am, but they're giving me the responsibility of filming them. And I remember just being in the room and just thinking to myself, oh man, I should not be here. Like there's all these huge people who I see online and on Facebook and in worship videos, and they're all right here, and I'm just here. And I was just thinking, oh no, like I got to be careful here. But it was really funny, and it was a lot of fun. And I got to meet these people, and they were interested in me. And in particular, this one worship leader whom they were interviewing, he was coming up to me and talking to me and asking who I am and asking what do I do and just getting to know me. And we talked for a while, and I was blown away because I was like, dude, you're the like everyone knows you. Like you're the guy, you're the one who we're here for, and yet you're talking to me. And so humbling to ask about who I am and to get to know me. The thing that I didn't tell him is that before I had met him, before that day, I actually had some serious beef with him. I really loved his music, and I really appreciated what he was doing and serving the global church by writing amazing music. But the way he was portraying himself on Instagram and the things he was posting and just the way his writing was, it just felt very self-centered and really narcissistic and not honoring to the Lord, and just like it's all about him and him just promoting his brand and his music and not ever cherishing or championing his church or his family or anybody else. I don't know, something about him just really rubbed me the wrong way, and I just did not like him until I met him in person and I had an actual conversation with him, and I realized he's just an ordinary guy just like me. He's just a guy just trying to go after God and trying to do what God has called him to do, and not being perfect at it, but doing his very best and honoring God every step of the way and giving God glory. And that's all it was. Social media, that was fake. It wasn't a reflection of who he was in real life. So I found out that how people portray themselves on social media is not necessarily the way they are in person. Regarding like, maybe they look like they're jerks on social media, but they're actually really nice in real life. And absolutely the other way around. They might seem really nice and really kind and selfless on social media, but when you meet them in real life, you come to realize that they're not quite like that. And it takes a real conversation, and it takes a legitimate connection with them apart from the digital world to really determine this. So social media, it was just, again, it was clouding my judgment. And I remember that day when I met this worship leader, it took me that long to realize, hey, people are not who they are on Instagram in real life. Like I felt stupid. I almost felt like, wow, it took me this long to realize that. Another reason why I left Facebook and Instagram, referring to the direction which Facebook, who does own Instagram, was taking and continues to take to this day, it's just something I'm not comfortable with. And it's something I hadn't been comfortable with for a long time, but it was really coming clear throughout 2020 of the learning algorithms they were enabling, the information they store and sell, the policies and politics they support. They're just things I don't personally agree with. And I get that a lot of other companies that I'm associated with and a part of are doing things I probably don't agree with. And there's bad and good in every company. And I certainly don't think that everybody who uses Facebook or Instagram is just some mindless sheep falling victim to their indoctrination. I just personally decided they're no longer a company that I want to associate myself with. And I won't get into more details. This is something I'm pretty adamant on. There's little that someone could say or do that's going to change my mind on this thing. Again, I don't think everybody else has to follow me and to do what I did. This is just where my conviction is at. Finally, a desire to be countercultural has been inside of me since, honestly, like the day I was born. Since I was a little kid, I always liked doing things differently from everyone else, finding different routes and taking roads less traveled, learning to do things a different way and learning things no one else learns, taking classes no one else takes. Like I said, social media is here to stay. It has become a home for influencers, businesses, creative artists, churches. I acknowledge that it has so many benefits to it, which is why I am not suggesting everyone has to do what I'm doing. But in the past decade, it's almost kind of become a requirement to operate in today's society to have a Facebook or Instagram account. It's how most people stay in touch with those who live far away from them. It's literally become the status quo. And by not having it, you're restricting yourself from being in the know of a lot of things and from connecting easily with others. It's almost like illogical not to have a social media account in some way. And this is exactly what made deleting it so attractive to my kind of personality. I love nothing more than being different. The surprised look on people's faces when I tell them I'm not on Facebook anymore is so priceless. But make no mistake, I didn't do this for anyone else but myself, and I will never go back. Has it been more difficult to stay in touch with people? Yeah, in some ways it has. I don't always know who is pregnant or who is engaged with so-and-so or who's going to which college, but it honestly reduced and it pruned my circle of friends down to those who truly value me, those who are intentional in keeping in touch with me, and ultimately those who help me be more like Christ. It was a pruning of my friend group, and as a result, I have matured and grown spiritually, mentally, physically, every way I possibly could. I was so double-minded about it, but it was honestly one of the best decisions I've made. So those are the reasons why I deleted social media, but here's what I want you, the listener, to do. Here are the things I really want you to ponder and to pray about. So going back to what I said at the beginning, I'm not convincing you to do what I did, but rather to do what God calls you to do, and to live by the convictions He presses on you, which are going to be different from mine. His grace is a confirmation towards what you should and shouldn't do. Many of you are aware of the adverse effects of social media, but you sense God's grace in your usage of it. Your following has been growing, and you've humbled yourself before the Lord, and He's exalted you and given you a platform to shine His light. And I'm not saying that a lot of followers is a sign of God's grace, but it might be. Social media might be the missionary field God has called you to shine your light in. We need faith-filled, Bible-believing influencers on Instagram. If every believer left social media, the digital world would become a nightmare. If God's graced you to be on social media, then you absolutely need to continue to shine His light. And His grace will sustain you amidst the negativity, confusion, and comparison that comes with the territory. See, every job has occupational hazards. There's always going to be a risk associated with every job that you sign up for. Even if it's some office job, there will be something that could potentially harm you or come back to bite you. It's the same case with the roles God has called us to do. A missionary in Africa is going to be faced with a lot of different hazards than a minister here in the United States, and God has graced him to do what he needs to do. And God's peace and God's wisdom is going to help him navigate all the hazards and all the challenges that comes with doing ministry in Africa versus in the United States versus in the Middle East or anywhere else. So God calls us to dark places to shine His light. He doesn't call us all to the same dark places. It was becoming more and more clear to me that God had not graced me to shine His light in the world of Facebook and Instagram and just social media in general. I thought it was my responsibility to bear the gospel there because everyone else was doing it, and that leaving it would be a selfish thing for me to do, and that people weren't going to get saved if I wasn't on Instagram or Facebook. But while bearing the gospel is absolutely my responsibility, it was clear that God had not specifically called me to social media like He did with others. He's called me to other places like my work, my church, this podcast, other friend groups and such. In fact, let's take this podcast, for example. So Ryan and I can tell you this podcast is way more work than we ever imagined. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. But it was so clear from the very beginning that God graced us to do this in our season of our lives. And not just because of the feedback we received from you guys, but just that internal peace within us that surpasses all understanding. This podcast requires a lot of patience, preparation, a lot of time, endless creativity, so much more. But we are so excited to record every time we get together. It gives us so much joy and energy and passion when we get behind a microphone and share what God has done in our lives. And it's clear that God has graced us for this podcast in this season. Now, God may not have graced you to host a podcast, But maybe he's giving you witty ideas to be a YouTuber or an author, an entrepreneur, a fitness coach, a game developer, a video editor. Wherever God graced you is where you need to be, no matter what the cost. So going back to social media, if you're like me and you're feeling burned out by it, or you're just sensing God has not graced you to be on social media, I encourage you to take the jump. One of my mentors was always giving me the example of a diving board, and you can stand on the edge and look down as long as you want. You can dream and thinking about jumping and just live in your own fantasy where you jumped where you actually didn't, and you can just sit there on the edge and count 1, 2, no, not right now. For your whole life. No one's going to push you to do anything because we all have free will. But in order to experience the fullness of joy that is found in the life God has for you, you have to jump. Just do it. Go into your account settings right now and press delete. Don't look back. Move forward from this season into the next. Again, it's not that social media is bad. It served its purpose for you. But today you need to move on. You need to move forward. In order for the new to come, the old has to go. Don't let another day pass and not take this leap of faith. Maybe it's not Facebook or Instagram. Maybe it's Netflix or video gaming or anime, something else. Just do it. Keep moving forward. Don't look back. You're going to thank me for this later. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube to keep up with all our upcoming episodes. If you enjoyed our conversation, be sure to share this with a friend or on your socials. We'll see you again for the next episode of Beyond the Surface.